The United States of America is home to hundreds of millions of people and stands as one of the richest and most powerful nations in the world. Through the centuries, the United States has seen its fair share of mystery and horror. Being as massive as the United States is, its geography and history blend together so many different cultures, lifestyles, and people. As one could imagine, the vastness of the United States has led to mysteries, urban legends, and hauntings. All over the United States, there are legends and lore around a specific area, from haunted Native American burial grounds and abandoned mental asylums to former plantations and regular homes where murders happened. The United States houses a wide variety of towns and buildings that are believed to be haunted. In this video, we will explore 8 locations across the United States, diving into the history and lore behind the hauntings. Join me in this video as we explore Haunted America.
Rap shooting pallbearers, let it chorus girls sing me a song.
Philadelphia's Eastern State Penitentiary. The first location to start off the video takes us to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, more specifically the Eastern State Penitentiary. The Eastern State Penitentiary was a former state prison, being in operation for over 100 years, first opening its doors in 1829 and closing its doors in 1971. Some of the most noteworthy people who were housed at Eastern State Penitentiary include Al Capone, who was an American gangster who rose to power during the Prohibition era, and Willie Sutton, a man who led a 40-year career of robbing banks. But what makes Eastern State Penitentiary stand out from other regular state prisons, you may ask? You see, when Eastern State Penitentiary was being established, it was innovative and designed as a concept of a prison that was also evolving, meaning that Eastern State Penitentiary was the world's first ever penitentiary. And the idea of reform and rehabilitation was not on the agenda when constructing the building. Instead, Eastern State was designed with the idea to inspire true, deep-rooted regret and sorrow in the hearts of its prisoners. Seeing as how this was the end goal of Eastern State, it is easy to see how this would in turn lead to a horrid experience while serving time at Eastern State. If you didn't know, the American prison system is also handled at different levels, with county and city jails being handled locally and housing minor offenders and less severe crimes, and state and federal prisons housing hardcore criminals who are guilty of more severe offenses and serving lengthy sentences or even life sentences. Needless to say, the ambiance at Eastern State was most likely abysmal. The 142 years that Eastern State was in operation had a large number of suicides, madness, diseases, homicides, and even torture. Some of the torture methods used were the water bath, which is where an inmate was soaked in a tub, then bound and locked outside on a wall to freeze in the winter until ice was forming on the inmate's skin. Another method of torture was the mad chair, in which an inmate was tied to a chair and then bound so tight their limbs would lose circulation, leading to amputations. The final method I will describe is the hole, in which inmates were locked in an underground cell with no light, no human contact, no toilet, no space, and were usually starved. There were, however, many other tortures used at Eastern State. As you can imagine, this, paired with the regular despair of prison, led to horrible experiences, which would most likely cause the inhabitants to have regrets and unrested souls to haunt the buildings after death. People who visit Eastern State report hearing voices echoing the halls, loud, unhinged laughter, and shadowy figures following them as they traverse the grounds. One of the most horrifying tales to come from Eastern State involves a man named Gary Johnson, who in the 90s claimed to walk into a cell one day to inspect something, but as he walked in, felt an immense pressure grab onto him tightly, and as he opened the door, he remembers feeling a horrible, negative energy inside the cell. As he entered the cell, he claimed to see tormented faces all over the walls, staring back at him, wailing in agony. Today, Eastern State Penitentiary stands as a historic landmark in Philadelphia and offers tours around the prison and even hosts Halloween nights. New Orleans LaLaurie Mansion. Next on the list takes us to the state of Louisiana, down to New Orleans and into the LaLaurie House. New Orleans, Louisiana is a part of the United States, rich in history and culture, playing important roles during multiple times in U.S. history, from the first colonization of the bayous to the Civil War and even the emergence of jazz music. New Orleans has seen millions of people come and go, and more importantly, a woman named Madame Delphine LaLaurie. Delphine LaLaurie was born on March 19, 1787, to a wealthy family in New Orleans. Her early life was pretty normal. Upon reaching adulthood, she was married 3 times, her first 2 husbands dying mysteriously and sparking some rumors and suspicion. It was her 3rd husband that she stayed with and moved into the home at the current address, 1140 Royal Street, New Orleans. The LaLaurie family were known for hosting large, lavish parties for the city where many other wealthy people would attend. Seeing as how these large parties would happen in the home, and the LaLaurie family owned slaves, rumors began to get around that Delphine LaLaurie was a horrendous person to her slaves, even by regular slave owner standards. Delphine was constantly under investigation and scrutinized for her harsh treatment of her slaves. Neighbors recall seeing her chasing enslaved children with whips. One of the most horrid accounts was the rumor that Delphine was known to keep her cook chained to the stove and not allow her to eat anything she was preparing. And another account is that she apparently whipped a 12-year-old girl to death and buried her on the property to avoid being tried for her crimes. Delphine was also known to beat her daughters for trying to feed themselves or other slaves. On April 10, 1834, a huge fire broke out on the property. Firefighters and neighbors quickly rushed to the scene. Upon entering the home, they discovered the rumor to be true. A 70-year-old woman was tied to the stove and had attempted to kill herself in a house fire for fear of being sent to the uppermost room, where apparently no slave who was taken to the room ever returned. The morning after the fire, a crowd wanted to investigate and was denied access into the home by the LaLauries. The crowd instead stormed the house and discovered 7 slaves, horribly mutilated, suspended by their necks and limbs, torn flesh between extremities, and some claiming to have been kept there for months. Once the news hit the city of New Orleans, a mob quickly formed and the LaLaurie home was ransacked and destroyed for the atrocities committed. The LaLaurie family fled to France, and Delphine never suffered consequences. The original LaLaurie home was burned to the ground by the mob in 1834, but the home was purchased and rebuilt into a school and is currently an apartment building. Many stories have come from the LaLaurie house, from the girls who attended the school and neighbors. People living nearby claim to see spirits in their homes and demons roaming the area. Children attending the school are allegedly attacked by the spirit of Delphine and suffer mysterious cuts and bruises. A medium was eventually brought to examine the house and claimed to feel an immense negative air in the home. South Carolina's Pawleys Island. Pawleys Island, a small barrier island off of the coast of South Carolina, is known for its tranquil beauty, rich history, and charming low-key atmosphere. Its roots trace back to the early 18th century when it became a retreat for the wealthy plantation owners of the region. Originally settled by the English, the island became a favored summer destination for South Carolina's elites, who sought refuge from the intense heat and mosquitoes of the mainland. Over the years, it became a haven for the elite plantation owners and their families, many of whom built massive beach houses, now known as Pawleys Island cottages. These homes were constructed in a style that blended colonial and coastal designs, and many of them still stand today, offering a glimpse into the island's aristocratic past. However, Pawleys Island is not just a quiet beach getaway. It has its share of mystery and folklore. The island is deep into tales of pirates, ghostly apparitions, and hidden treasures. One of the most enduring legends is the tale of a notorious pirate named Stede Bonnet, known as the Gentleman Pirate. who is said to have buried treasure somewhere along the island's shores. Though no treasure has ever been found, the legend continues to spark interest, drawing treasure hunters to Pawleys Island to search for riches that may or may not exist. Locals also whisper of the Gray Man, a spectral figure said to appear before hurricanes and disasters, warning residents of impending danger. The Gray Man legend is common in coastal regions, but Pawley Island residents believe that their version is unique to Pawley Island, with stories of the Gray Man dating back to the early 1800s. Today, Pawley Island is still a peaceful retreat, beloved for its beaches and scenic marshlands. While Pawley Island is most known for its quiet beauty and leisurely lifestyle, its ghostly tales add an air of mystery that continues to captivate both locals and visitors. Colorado's The Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, is a hotel named after its founder and inventor of steam-powered cars, Freeland Oscar Stanley. Stanley had been diagnosed with tuberculosis and told that he would not live past a year after his diagnosis, but advised him to move west and get some mountain air. Stanley and his wife moved to Colorado, and Stanley loved the area so much he healed from his tuberculosis completely and started plans to construct a hotel with his massive fortune from pioneering steam-powered engines. In 1909, the Stanley Hotel construction was complete. Stanley spared no detail and cut no corners during construction. The building was a massive luxury, especially for its time, featuring running water, electricity, telephones, and even cooling, but no heat, since Stanley actually wanted the hotel to be a luxury summer resort in the Colorado mountains. The Stanley Hotel went on to host a number of high-profile guests, including Theodore Roosevelt, the Emperor and Empress of Japan, and a large number of celebrities, and of course Stephen King, who would go on to write The Shining, which was inspired by his stay at the Stanley Hotel. The Stanley Hotel, strangely enough, is not known for horrendous conditions or anything out of the ordinary for treatment of workers. Freeland Stanley was actually passionate about his hotel and wanted to run a successful hotel. A couple rumors may hint at giving reason to believe the hotel may be haunted. For example, there is a pet cemetery located on the grounds for the employees, and in 1911, there was a gas explosion in room 217 that injured a maid, but the maid survived and went on to die years later of natural causes. The only other rumor hinting at misfortune is the rumor that a cook died in the underground caves the employees would use to quickly maneuver the hotel. This has not been confirmed, but rumor has it that a part of the cave collapsed on him and he was crushed. But how exactly is the Stanley Hotel haunted? You see, there are certain areas and rooms in the hotel that visitors claim to experience paranormal activity. For example, room 407 is said to be haunted by a man named Lord Dunraven, who sold Stanley the land to build the hotel on. Visitors staying in room 407 claim to see a shadowy figure standing in the corner of the room, taunting them with lights. It is also said that he will listen and turn the lights on or off if you ask him to. A ghostly face is also said to be seen from the outside in room 407 when the room is vacant. Room 428 visitors claim to see a man dressed in cowboy apparel standing in the room or sitting on the edge of the bed. The hotel is only 4 floors, and visitors all over the 4th floor have stated to hear sounds like children laughing, furniture moving, and footsteps coming from the roof. Room 217 visitors have reported strange occurrences where they had their belongings organized and packed as they slept. One woman even reported waking up in a bed that was made where she was tucked into by a third party. Room 217 is also famously the room that Stephen King stayed in and had a nightmare. In the nightmare, King recalls seeing a coiled fire hose chasing his son down the hotel's halls. King woke up from his dream and went to smoke a cigarette, and apparently, as he finished the cigarette, he had planned out a rough template for The Shining. Freeland Stanley and his wife Flora Stanley are also said to be seen in the hotel or walking the halls, observing the guests. Freeland is said to appear and disappear from crowds touring the hotel, and Flora is sometimes seen playing a piano in the hotel. Although the hotel does not have a history of violence or torture, many people do report strange activity. Is it possible for a place to be haunted politely by the people who used to inhabit the areas? California's Winchester House. The Winchester Mystery House, located in San Jose, California, is one of the most famous and peculiar landmarks in the United States. It was originally the home of Sarah Winchester, widow of William Wirt Winchester, heir to the Winchester rifle fortune. After the death of her husband and daughter, Sarah moved to California in 1884, where she purchased an unfinished farmhouse. Over the next 38 years, she would spend the rest of her life building and adding onto the home. The house, now a massive 24,000 square foot mansion, is well known for its bizarre design and staircases that lead to nowhere, doors that open into walls, and windows that look out onto other rooms. The maze-like construction has fueled speculation and mystery for over a century. Many believe Sarah Winchester was driven by a desire to appease the spirits of those killed by her husband's rifles. Legend has it that she consulted with spiritualists and mediums who told her that she needed to keep building to avoid the wrath of these restless spirits. While the true motivations behind Sarah's relentless construction remain unclear, it's widely accepted that her grief, personal losses, and possibly her belief in spiritualism played a significant role in her eccentric building decisions. The house reflects a fusion of Victorian architecture and oddities designed to confuse, reflecting the mind of a woman coping with a deep personal tragedy. Today, the Winchester Mystery House is a popular tourist attraction, offering guided tours that explore its history, mysteries, and paranormal lore. The mansion's ongoing appeal lies not just in its strange architecture, but in the eerie tales that have woven themselves into its legend over the years, with many visitors claiming to experience paranormal activity. Now a designated historic landmark, the house stands as a testament to both a woman's obsession with building and a place steeped in American folklore and mystery. West Virginia's Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, located in Weston, West Virginia, is a historic building with a grim past. Opened in 1864, the asylum was designed to house the mentally ill, and its massive structure was one of the largest hand-cut stone buildings in the United States, built with the hope of providing a more humane environment for patients than the overcrowded and poorly maintained asylums of the time. The facility was intended to house 250 patients, but by the early 1950s, it was holding over 2,400 patients, far exceeding its capacity. The design of the building itself was based on the Kirkbride plan, an architectural style that emphasized airy, well-lit rooms with the belief that fresh air and light were key to healing. However, the reality at Trans-Allegheny was much darker. Overcrowding, inadequate treatment, and poor conditions led to widespread neglect. Patients often faced harsh treatments like electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and even physical restraint in padded cells. Many of the patients were diagnosed with conditions that were not fully understood at the time, including things like depression and even hysteria, which were often viewed as societal rather than medical issues. As time passed, the asylum's reputation grew increasingly grim. The building fell into disrepair, and after its closure in 1994, the site remained abandoned for years. But even in its decay, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum has become a place of legend, particularly when it comes to the paranormal activities that happen there. Visitors and staff alike have reported strange occurrences, voices, footsteps, and ghostly apparitions, leading to its status as one of the most haunted locations in the United States. In the present day, the asylum is a popular site for historical tours, ghost hunts, and events, offering a glimpse into the troubled history of mental health care in America. Despite its grim past, the building has been carefully preserved and stands as a reminder of the complexities surrounding mental illness and treatment. While the spirits of its former patients are said to haunt its halls, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum also serves as a symbol of both progress made in psychiatric care and the dark history of mental health treatment. San Diego's Whaley House. The Whaley House, located in San Diego's Old Town District, is considered one of the most haunted houses in the United States, and for a good reason. Built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley, a successful businessman, the house has been the site of numerous unsettling events, earning it a reputation as a true supernatural home. The home was originally constructed as a store, theater, and family residence, but over the years, it became infamous for the tragedies and strange occurrences that unfolded within its walls. The house's dark history begins before it was even completed. In 1852, a man named James Robinson, nicknamed Yankee Jim, a notorious criminal, was hung by a San Diego mob on the property, an event that many believe set the stage for the hauntings that would follow. Soon after, Thomas Whaley and his family moved in, and a series of unfortunate events began to unfold. Whaley's daughter, Violet, tragically took her own life in the house in 1885, deepening the air of sadness and despair that seemed to stay in the property. Over the years, other members of the Whaley family, along with various guests and tenants, have reported strange occurrences, doors that slam on their own, cold spots randomly in the house, hearing footsteps with no explanation, and the unmistakable feeling of being watched. Some even claim to see ghostly figures, including the ghost of Yankee Jim himself. The Whaley house's haunted reputation has only grown more in modern times. Visitors report strange phenomena during tours, including unexplained voices, shadowy figures, and the distinct sensation of being touched or followed by unseen entities. The most frequently encountered spirit is that of Thomas Whaley's daughter, Violet, who is said to haunt the second-floor hallway where she ended her life. Some claim to hear her soft footsteps or the sound of a faint cry echoing throughout the house. Despite its charm and historical significance, the Whaley House has become synonymous with horror. It's been featured on numerous most haunted lists, attracting ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts from all over the world. The house's history, combined with the chilling stories of hauntings and the sense of unease, makes it a true American horror landmark. Today, the Whaley House is a museum open to the public for tours that delve into both its fascinating history and terrifying past. Visitors walk through rooms that have been preserved to reflect the 19th century life of the Whaley family. For those who visit, many leave wondering if the spirits of the past still linger in the shadows of the Whaley House. Louisiana's The Myrtle Plantation. Sitting in the deep south, in St. Francisville, Louisiana, the Myrtle Plantation is widely believed to be one of the most haunted locations in the United States. The Myrtle Plantation was owned by a wealthy couple named the Woodruffs. Mr. Woodruff was a judge and owned slaves. Tragically enough, the Woodruffs were immensely cruel to their slaves. In particular, one house slave named Chloe. Chloe would often be targeted and try to avoid being zeroed in on. And to try to avoid being targeted, she would eavesdrop on conversations and try to plan ahead. One day, Chloe was caught eavesdropping and had her ears cut off. She was then forced to wear a green turban to hide the scarring. As an act of revenge, Chloe went on to plant oleander leaves in the cake for one of the Woodruff's daughter's birthday. Chloe's goal was not even to kill the family. She instead wanted to lightly poison them and nurse them back to health. Since people with medical expertise were respected more than those with no medical knowledge, Chloe ended up overdoing the leaves and ended up poisoning Miss Woodruff and her two daughters to death. When word of what Chloe did got around, the other slaves hung Chloe and then weighed down her body with rocks in the Mississippi River. Mr. Woodruff sold the home, and the new owners went on to brutalize the slaves and were cruel to them. The home was eventually passed down to one of the daughters, where her and her husband, a man named Mr. Winter. What's strange about this is that one day Mr. Winter saw a man approaching the home on horseback, and as Mr. Winter walked out to see who the man was, the man on horseback pulled out a gun and shot Mr. Winter point blank and took off. Mr. Winter stumbled inside and crawled up the stairs, calling out to his wife, and died in her arms. People who visit the Myrtle Plantation claim to hear the loud crashing footsteps of Mr. Winter climbing up the stairs. The home has been sold and resold a couple of times, and residents have reported seeing a girl in a green turban walking the halls. One person even claims to have gotten a photograph of Chloe's spirit. Another chilling fact is that in the main hallway, there is an antique mirror, and in that mirror, there are handprints that appear in the same spot, regardless of how many times the mirror is resilvered, replaced, or polished. The handprints always appear. The Myrtle Plantation today is still open as a bed and breakfast that offers amenities and even daily tours of the grounds. Now that we have covered all of the locations and gone over the mystery and horror surrounding the areas, let me know what you thought down in the comments. Have you visited any of the locations mentioned? Are there any locations you think should have been on the list? Thank you for watching Psychosis.